There was a point in my life when I desperately wanted to be a writer. But every time I sat down to write, it felt like I did everything but write. For some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to put words down on the page. In today's video, we're going to talk about what led to that behavior and how I overcame it. We're going to talk about making bad art. For anyone who's new to the channel, my name is Seth. I'm a full-time fantasy author. I love making YouTube videos, and I would love to be partnered. So please do me a huge favor and subscribe. Make sure you like the video, and also please comment down below letting me know what kinds of topics you would be interested in hearing me cover in future videos. So one of my favorite sayings is make bad art. It's also one of the things that is the hardest for me to do. Maybe some of you can relate. I don't know if it's my personality or if it's my generation or this crazy modern world of social media, but I find myself desperately afraid of doing things poorly. So afraid that I'll often just not do something if I don't think I'm going to be able to do it well. And this isn't even a conscious thing. I'll think, oh, it would be really cool if I did X, Y, or Z. And then I won't do X, Y, or Z because in the back of my head, I'm afraid of looking like an idiot when I don't do it well. And for me, writing was that exactly. See, I've always had this super active imagination, and I can imagine stories before I even really understand them, before I can even really articulate them. And I would see these just awesome scenes in my head and these really cool stories. And then when I sat down to try to write them out, I realized this is really hard and I can't produce the epic story that's in my head on paper in the way that I want to. If I'm honest, my first attempts at writing were pretty awful. This led me to this vicious cycle where I would have this really cool story idea, I would sit down to start to write it, and I would be so afraid that I wouldn't be able to tell the story properly, that I just wouldn't tell the story at all. And this actually continued for years. I started writing in 2015, and I had this great idea for a book, and I tried to write it. And by 2017, I had exactly one page done. I had managed to write about 250 words. And I did that on the first day that I started writing in 2015. So that's 2 years, 2 years of just not writing the story. Now, I honestly don't remember where I came across this idea, but it completely changed my life. I call it make bad art, but it would probably be better to call it make the best art that you can make, and if people don't like it, they can go jump in a lake, because you are going to keep at it until your art is so good that nobody can call it bad. But that's a mouthful, so I just call it make bad art. Let me break it down for you. What if I told you that if you can write 10 bad books, the 11th is going to be a smash success? Guaranteed. Write 10 bad books, and when you write your 11th, it's going to be a smash success. Would you do it? I know I would. And as silly as that sounds, that's actually true. Now, the number is going to be different for every person, but this is one of the laws of reality. Reps times improvement equals progress. And if you make progress long enough, what you produce is going to be awesome. Maybe it'll be 10 books, maybe it'll be 20 books. But even if you told me, Seth, you have to write 50 books before you have a smash success, I'd still do it. The good news is it doesn't take people that long. Humans are amazing, and we can develop mastery a lot faster than that. So what does this have to do with making bad art? Well, that's what those 10 books are, bad art. If I know that reps times improvement equals progress, then as long as I look for one thing to improve every time I make a piece of bad art, I know that I'm going to improve. I just have to keep going. And the more art I make, or the more reps I put in, the faster I'm going to improve. Now, I call it make bad art because the reality is that if I try to make everything that I do perfect, I'm going to do it really slowly. But if I'm comfortable with putting bad art out into the world, with it not being perfect, then as long as I continually try to improve, continually try to make every piece of art I put out better than the previous piece, then not only will I go faster, I'll improve quicker, and I'll get to my destination sooner. Now, some people are probably bristling by this point and saying, this is a dumb idea. Why would you intentionally try to make bad art? And that's not what I'm saying. Don't make bad art in the sense that you are intentionally trying to make something that isn't good. Instead, be comfortable with not being your best. Because here's the truth. The book that I put out today is not as good as the book that I'm going to put out in a year. But if I wait, then I'm not going to get any better. It's only by putting the work in now, doing the rep now, that my book next year is going to be better. Because I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure out what's wrong with this one, and I'm going to improve it for the next one. The goal of Make Bad Art isn't to make your art bad. It's to practice. It's to be comfortable saying, I'm not as good as I will be. But as long as I keep going, as long as I keep putting the reps in, and as long as I keep improving, I'm going to get so good that it's undeniable. It's being willing to be bad at something, all for the sake of getting better. I'm 21 books into my writing career, and I still consider myself to be making bad art. Now, that doesn't mean my books are bad. They're good enough that I can make a great living from them. But they're also the 21 worst books of my career, because the book I'm writing now is better than the last book I wrote. And the book I write next is going to be even better than this one. And I know I'm repeating myself by this point, but that's because with every rep, I'm looking for something to improve and I'm making it better. Make Bad Art is this principle that helped me overcome that crippling fear of just not being good enough. See, I assume that I'm not going to be. I assume that what I put out today is not going to be as good as what I put out tomorrow. And I'm okay with that. So I would encourage you, make bad art. If your current story isn't what you want it to be, then don't give up on it, but instead recognize that it doesn't have to be your masterpiece. You can simply finish it and move on to the next one, taking the lessons you've learned and applying them to your next piece of art.